Hello YouTube and welcome to Prime Productions. I'm here to help enhance your tabletop gaming experience. If you're new to this channel, I primarily cover Paizo tabletop role-playing games like Pathfinder and Starfinder. So, every month Paizo likes to put out a video talking about what's going on with the company and teasing new stuff coming out, and recently, as of the posting of this video, they came out with their September 2024 video. So I thought we could talk it over and summarize it. So listen, writing and editing a script and doing video editing takes time. If I want to get this summary out in a timely manner, this is going to have to be an unscripted video without a whole lot of interesting things to look at. I'm sorry. This is just going to be a quickie video where I summarize all the stuff that was released in this live stream, and of course, link to the full official video will be in the description below. Oh, and just to let you know, I did my best grabbing footage from Twitch off of the live stream, but there are a few graphical errors that came as part of the file I downloaded. There's nothing I can do about it, it's part of the base file I downloaded, sorry. So, they started off talking about some new merch opportunities. There is this gourd leshy foam statue that's coming out next year. Apparently it's about the size of a cat. They said that coming out later this year, or maybe it's out now, they weren't very clear, is a baby goblin statue that's roughly the same size. So if you want one of those, there you go. They also showed off that the physical War of Immortals books has been printed. You can see them on screen now. Then they got into the first segment, which was all about Curtain Call. Now, I've talked about Curtain Call before on this channel, but this stream did introduce a few new bits of content. First of all, part of Curtain Call is out already if you want to start playing it. It is a level 11 to 20 adventure path with a pretty unique hook. The idea is that your previous adventures, your 1 to 10 adventures, have inspired someone to make an opera. Now, the artwork in the book assumes that this previous adventure was Abomination Vaults, but that is only for the artwork. Your previous adventures could be Quest from the Frozen Flame, Gatewalkers, or maybe a home game. Or something else entirely. Now, it's important to note that players are not acting as themselves in the opera, but are acting as producers. And while the players are getting the opera off the ground, the players also run afoul of an evil cult trying to do something evil in the region. And they've spoiled it. Yeah, the group that's up to no good is the cult of Norgorber. And apparently you get to meet Norgorber himself in this AP and even learn his name when he was mortal, or at least one of his names. I need to reiterate that the players are not in the play. Instead, the players hire from a pool of 8 NPCs to depict them. Each NPC has a type that they play, so if you want to, say, have the goblin represent your character, that may not be the best option if the goblin's type doesn't comport with portraying you. When you make a character for Curtain Call, you choose a type, and if your type doesn't match the type of the actor, then there could be some consequences for that. It also could lead to some really silly things, like maybe the best person to represent your elf swashbuckler is this dwarf here. Now, of course, the AP ties in with God's Reign and the events of God's Reign and War of Immortals, so there is that stuff, but apparently it's happening in the background. But the events of this AP do take place during War of the Immortals. Also, they wanted to reiterate that unlike the AP Extinction Curse, the opera is front and center in each part of the adventure path. If you don't know, Extinction Curse is an adventure path where you start off in a circus, but the circus stuff kind of falls to the side as the adventure continues. They did kind of give a rough layout of the adventure path. Book 1 is about getting the show off the ground and getting financed. Book 2 involves hiring everybody, including actors, composers, and starting rehearsals. And Book 3 involves you as the producers basically putting out fires and dealing with last-minute disasters and then having the premiere of your opera. Then they moved on to Starfinder 2nd Edition information. Not mentioned in the livestream is the fact that the FAQ for Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest did drop just recently as of the posting of this video. That wasn't mentioned in the livestream, like I said, that's just something I wanted to throw in. But they said they are deep diving into all the feedback they're getting from Starfinder 2nd Edition. People are positively responding to the compatibility with Starfinder 2nd Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition. They talked a little bit about Empires Devoured, which is the second major adventure for the Starfinder 2nd Edition playtest. It's a level 10 to 13 adventure, And this is new, they talked about the adventure setup, basically. The start of it is that the Aslanti are actually in peace talks with the Veskarium, but then something breaks down, the Aslanti sneak attack the Vesk, and that kind of kickstarts the war. And they said that this war is not going to just be a one-off thing, it's going to be an ongoing issue for at least a couple of years in Starfinder lore. Now, they did show one of the early encounters in Empires Devoured. They just showed the artwork. They didn't actually say what it was, but they said it involved rescuing this Skittermander from a crashed Veskarium ship before it explodes, and it's like a big challenge thing. It doesn't involve fighting. By the way, apparently the Skittermander's name is Crunkle Gigi or something like that. Thurston Hillman kind of slurred his words. They showed off this art piece out of context. Presumably it takes place in Empires Devoured, and they just wanted to show off that while there is an interstellar war going on, there's also still crazy, fantastical sci-fi elements too. Here's another picture from Empires Devoured showing two Starfinders and this ally character fighting an Aslanti called a Sahedron Guard. Finally, a bit of a playtest update. The Envoy is getting updated, and they said that each subclass is now getting its own unique directive, and that there will be some class feats that allow Envoys to pinch directives from other subclasses. Being able to pinch stuff from other subclasses isn't new, but it is new for the Envoy. If you don't know how the Envoy works, I have explained it a couple of times, either in my classes video, or I've just made an Envoy in a different video that you can see on screen now. Then they moved on to part 3, which is the biggest part and involves a lot of War of Immortals information. First of all, recap, War of Immortals is a big book. It has mythic rules in it, though they didn't talk about that in this live stream. They also talked about the 2 new classes, the Animist and the Exemplar, and a bunch of other new stuff that we'll get into. First of all, they did say that there's going to be a shakeup with orc deities. If you don't know, in the Pathfinder lore, a orc deity can be killed off by an orc who died gloriously in battle and replaced with the new orc. They did say that there are some new orc gods coming in and old ones are on their way out. This includes new orc gods that are nastier and more violent than the current ones, but also some new orc gods that are heroic good guys. Like I said, the 2 new classes are the Animist and the Exemplar. The Animist gets 2 new subclasses for a total of 4. Remember, the playtest had 2 subclasses, the Sage and the Channeler. The new ones are the Seer and the Medium. The Seer can see more deeply into the spirit world and can find and access darker and less accessible spirits. The Medium lets spirits stay with them always instead of picking up new spirits in new places that they visit. And the Medium lets those spirits possess them. While a Medium lets a spirit possess them, they may be able to ignore certain status effects. Now, they talked about new Exemplar options. There aren't exactly new subclasses, but there are some new sample builds that they talked about. One is called the Sky King Eternal, and it has a new ability called Battle Hymn of the Lost. Remember, this is just a build option, so basically most Exemplars will be able to pick this up. Battle Hymn of the Lost lets you strike an enemy and also cause friendly spirits to come forth, harm enemies, and possibly even heal allies. Creation's Beast is a response to playtest requests for natural attacks or a punching exemplar. This particular artwork highlights the Hands of the Wildling, which are unarmed attack options. They talked about some new Nephilim lineages, like the Battle-Blooded, which involves being descended from either a Valkyrie or an Ironhar, basically Norse mythical warriors. Now, there are 5 new class archetypes in War of Immortals. If you don't know, a class archetype is where you change up how a base class works, but in return you lose your second-level class feat. And then there are more class feats for the class archetypes that you can pick up at higher levels if you want. There are 3 that were mentioned in a blog post just recently. I'll link it in the description below. Those are Blood Rager, which is a barbarian class archetype and gives you limited spellcasting. Avenger, which is inspired by the 1st edition Slayer, which is a rogue class archetype. And then Vindicator, which is based on the old Inquisitor from 1st edition and is a ranger class archetype. The new ones that were announced were Seneschal, which is a witch archetype where your patron has died, but their energy is just hanging around in the ether and you are drawing on it. At level 20, you draw all of the energy into yourself and basically replace your patron. Warrior of Legend is a class archetype based on Achilles or similar characters. They have a kind of doom or curse on them. They start off vulnerable to a type of damage, such as piercing damage, but as they gain levels, that damage becomes more and more specific, such as gaining vulnerability to only arrows. When they take damage from their cursed weakness, which is what this vulnerability is, they gain the doomed condition, but they also gain cool powers like extra damage or temporary hit points. Eventually, they can get to the point where they resist all damage except for their cursed weakness. Now, they do lose heavy armor training, and I think their good weapon proficiency is limited to either spears or polearms because, again, we're talking about Achilles kind of stuff. Lastly, they did some Q&A. I'll just give the brief cliff notes of what they talked about in the Q&A. Exemplars have some healing options, but they are not primary healers. They just have a few options. Animist subclasses, which are, by the way, called practices, define their relationship with their spirits. Some will have very personal relationships with spirits that they always keep around. Some will meet new spirits wherever they go. It just depends on which subclass you choose. There are some new upcoming Starfinder playtest adventures, such as Wheel of Monsters, which features Zoe, and there's apparently a 15th level Starfinder adventure coming out. The name wasn't mentioned, but it is 15th level, and apparently it's going to be roughly the same size as a Cosmic Birthday. They did mention that there is a way of exemplars getting medium armor proficiency, though they didn't say how. That may be a change to their base class chassis, or it may be a class option. They did say that when the Starfinder GM book comes out next year, that there will be a section about mixing Pathfinder and Starfinder together, mostly talking about equipment from what I could tell, like making sure Starfinder classes get batteries if they need them, or making sure a Pathfinder in a Starfinder world has a comm link. They talked about maybe adding Pathfinder class options to Starfinder books, so maybe a Starfinder-specific fighter feat kind of thing. And apparently they showed off artwork for a drift insect swarm, which apparently looks like a series of Minecraft flies and are terrifying according to Thurston Hillman. The swarm can apparently phase through reality to get you. Thanks for the nightmare fuel, Thurston. And that's it. That's just about all of the summary I can give you for this particular live stream. Comment below if anything you saw caught your attention. I actually am much more interested in Curtain Call than I was before. This live stream really got me interested in it. I wasn't too into it before, but man, I love the idea of going out and interviewing actors and finding an actor to represent you, even if it's like a bad idea, like a dwarf representing an elf or something. Anyway, while you're down there commenting, make sure to like and subscribe. That tells not only me, but also YouTube that you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And until next time, thank you, good luck, and happy gaming!